I wasn't born in a creative family at all really. I was just like the typical suburban kid. My dad was a structural engineer, my mum was a secretary. I think we had one picture hung on the wall, a reproduction of a constable's hay wain. What we did have though was my dad, as I said, was an engineer, so huge amounts of paper around. He worked from home, lots of old plans, all his drawing paraphernalia, propelling pencils. And my mum would sit with us for a long time, just letting us sketch away. I can't say I was the artist kid in school, but I remember at primary school winning an award and the prize was a book token. And I remember packing myself off down to W.H. Smith with the headmaster, and the two books we had to buy had to do something with what we wanted to do with our lives. And I remember buying an annual of the England cricket team's tour of Australia and a bird book, and I still have that bird book, and just seeing the illustrations, it was a real sort of like spark for my interest, not only in the wildlife but also in the production of images of birds and wildlife. Secondary school, I was just really heavily into my sports, and it was a very academic school. But then I made the shock decision at 16 to go to art school. The school wasn't very happy about it. They tried to sort of persuade me not to do it, and my art teacher said I'd be a miserable failure. And so stubbornness really probably drove me to make that final decision to go to art school, just to prove everybody wrong that I could do it. Our parents were really supportive. My dad wanted to be a carpenter, but he was pushed into being an engineer because it was seen as a better career. And so I think he just thought, well, I'm not going to stop my son following his passion. But saying that, I probably did hoodwink him a bit, because I said I'm going to be a graphic designer, because that was a definite job at the end of it, rather than being an artist, which sounds a bit mysterious. But yeah, drawing was always my love, and that's what I want to pursue really. And the next step was to do my degree, and I specialised in illustration with a printmaking strand. And the facilities there were fantastic. There was a huge print studio there, which we could pop in and out of. And so I'd spent an awful lot of time just walking up down the canals of Leeds, drawing the old post-industrial landscape with all the empty mills. And then the landscape, the edgeland landscape of that city, then moving on to the rural landscape that fitted between Harrogate and Leeds as I commuted every day. To draw all day was just thrilling really, and that's what got me hooked. I don't suppose that I ever made a conscious decision about the subject that I work with. It's something that's come naturally to me. And although I said I had a suburban childhood, there was a flip side to that, in the fact that my mum's dad, my granddad, was a farm labourer, and my dad's dad was a gardener on a big country estate near us. And so we used to spend weekends on that farm, helping out at harvest time and hay time, potato picking, stone picking, all the things that you want to do as an 11-year-old kid. But it did give me an affinity to that landscape and just everything that inhabited it really, and gave me a knowledge of it as well. And the working landscape is something that keeps me excited. I've come back to a lot of times, as well as the larger landscapes. And just bird watching in the back garden was all exciting, even though it was just sparrows and starlings and blue tits. It still gave me a thrill. And so it's just sort of like it always felt natural, the natural thing for me to do. Drawing is the essential part of my practice, even in the paintings are very painterly. It's underlined with a good sense of drawing. How I became an oil painter, just a natural progression really. When I first started using it, it just felt right. I quite like the unctuousness of it, the materiality of it, and it's just a really nice medium to use. And then the printmaking that's just drawing transposed into another form really. I've always been fascinated by printmaking. It's just that moment when you reveal the page, it's gone through the press, and you reveal the paper off the plate, and you get that surprise. Some of the surprises are a joyous of disappointment, but you get a bit addicted at that moment of reveal. When I first started, I spent a lot more time outside working plein air, and then bringing them back into the studio to finish them off. But now it's probably 80% spent in the studio, because I think it's become more about matching my subject, what I'm painting, with the materials that I'm using, and making sure both have got an integrity. So if somebody who loves big abstract painting saw one of my little landscapes, they'd get a kick from how I use paint. Every day starts with drawing really. Warm up, it's like an athlete stretching their muscles, and then it's just into whatever I've got on at the minute. I'm quite chaotic in the way that I work, and you might gather from seeing this around most studios, can be a bit of a tip sometimes, and then I jump from one thing to another. And also just trying to keep that balance between subject and material and making sure that they balance perfectly. I suppose jumping around between mediums, painting and printmaking, always gives spontaneity, and you always learn. Although they're very different things, my paintings are quite three-dimensional and quite painterly, where printmaking is obviously very flat. The printmaking always feeds back into the painting, and the painting always feeds back into the printmaking. I'll never know when a piece is finished. Looking around this exhibition now, I could quite easily take all the paintings down and carry on painting on them, scraping them back, carrying on painting, because that's part of the process really. It's putting the paint on, taking the paint off, putting the paint on. So to me, a painting's never finished. It's just a case of when it needs to be finished and it goes out of the studio. So monotype's slightly different because you get one chance through the press, then it's finished, and that's more of an editing out process. I would say that out of the 10 monotypes that I do, 3 will make it out of the studio, the other 7 end up in a very greedy bin. The dry points become more finished because that's more of a drawing process where through drawing I refine them to the very few lines. So these are probably, the dry points will be the most finished work, but even looking at these on the walls now, I could probably take them down, redo the plates and have even fewer lines on them to get right down to essence, so maybe 1 or 2, 3 lines at the most. One of the biggest challenges is to just turn up to work every day and put the hours in, put the shift in. You're doing the same thing 8-10 hours every day of your life. And you do need to have that hours of work to get to the point where you want to be. And also to keep it interesting and spontaneous for yourself and creating that excitement in your work. And also you go through these bad times, creative blocks or times when it's not working. And it's all about turning up and putting the hours in to get through it really. I think every person in every creative industry, be it art, music, writing, whatever, would say that they experience some sort of creative blocks. And the way I get through them, I'm not saying this is the right way, and that is just to carry on coming to work every day, just hitting it hard and just working the way through them. I know some people will walk out the studio, shut the door and forget about it for a while, then come back. But I just like to come to work. I'm quite habitual in my ways, and I just quite like to come to work and just work and work my way through it. You'll also get something that's not a creative block, but you get these passages in your year where everything you produce you think's just rubbish, and you just have to realise that that is just part of the process, and that if you just keep painting, you'll paint your way through it, and then at the end of it, you'll notice that something's changed in your work or something's progressed in your work without you've been conscious of it, but your mind just sort of like been clicking all the time, and it's pushed beyond it. When it comes to inspiration, in the art sense, every piece of work inspires something in you. You learn a lot from just looking at other people's work, but I'll probably go back to my childhood, and I mentioned earlier that was the work that was hung on the dining room wall in the Constable. It was a reproduction of the Hay Wain, and he's an artist that's always stayed with me throughout my career, and it's not so much the big finished pieces like his work in progress, his proprietary work, his cloud studies, the more abstract work, and it's that abstract nature that I really love in Constable, and his knowledge for the subject and his knowledge of the Suffolk landscape. But also going back to the abstract work, the big abstract painters like Rothko have always given me the biggest kick, and I always had this dream when I was at university that I'd probably be end up painting these huge abstract canvases in some big studio. But it's gone down a different route, and even though I paint very small, figurative subjects, it's that abstract quality that really gets me going. And going back to figurative work, we were in Edinburgh earlier this year, and it was really nice to reacquaint myself with the Glasgow boys and Glasgow girls. It was like reintroduce myself with old friends really, because of being in my career throughout, and it was just lovely to see them again up close and just to really appreciate how they handle paint. Outside the art world, the natural world is still my biggest inspiration. Always will be really, even if I did end up painting big, huge abstracts, I'm sure they'd be rooted somewhere in the natural world. Just getting out into the landscape is always thrilling. We just come back from a holiday up the northeast coast, and to go from like Bamber and places around there, see the landscape and see the seabirds at St Abbs and the gannets at North Berwick is just truly inspiring. But also went to the Seabird Centre at North Berwick, and we just happened to catch a little talk by a young lad who works for them, and his passion at seabirds and how climate change is affecting everything, and his desire to do something about it was just really inspiring. It's just lovely to know that the next generation is going to sort of like try the very hardest to right the wrongs that our generation has put upon them.